Okay, we're going to start with the Apocrypha, first Esdras of the King James Bible 611 version. First Esdras, the first book of Esdras. And Josiah held the feast of the Passover in Jerusalem unto his king, and offered the Passover the 14th day of the first month, having set the priests according to their daily courses, being arrayed in long garments, in the temple of Ahiah. And he spake unto the Levites, the holy ministers of Israel, that they should hallow themselves unto Ahiah, Almighty God, to set the holy ark of Ahiah in the house that King Solomon the son of David had built. And said, Ye shall no more bear the ark upon your shoulders. Now therefore serve Ahiah your mighty God, and minister unto his people Israel, and prepare you after your families and kindreds, according as David the king of Israel prescribed, and according to the magnificence of Solomon his son, and standing in the temple according to the several dignity of the families of you, the Levites, who minister into the presence of your brethren, the children of Israel. Offer the Passover in order and make ready the sacrifices for your brethren, and keep the Passover according to the commandments of mighty God Ahiah, which was given unto Moses. And unto the people that was found there Josiah gave 30,000 lambs and kids, meaning goats, and 3,000 calves. These things were given unto the king's allowance, according as he promised, to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. And Hilkiah and Zacharias and Silas, the governor of the temple, gave to the priests for the Passover 2,600 sheep and 300 calves. And Jeconiah and Semarias and Nathaniel, his brother, and Asabias and Orkiel and Joram, and captains over thousands, gave to the Levites for the Passover 5,000 sheep and 700 calves. And when these things were done, the priests and the Levites, having the unleavened bread, stood in very commonly order to the kindred, and according to the several dignities of the fathers before the people, to offer unto Ahiah, our mighty God, as it is written in the book of Moses. And thus did they in the morning. And they roasted the Passover with fire as appertained. As for the sacrifices, they sod them in brass pots and pans with a good savour, and set them before all the people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests their brethren, the sons of Aaron. For the priests offered the fat until night, and the Levites prepared for themselves, and the priests their brethren, the sons of Aaron. The holy singers also, the son of Asaph, were in their order according to the appointment of David, to wit, Asaph, Zacharias, and Jeduthun, who was the king's retinue. Moreover, the porters were at every gate. It was not lawful for any to go from his ordinary service, for their brethren the Levites prepared for them. Thus were the things that belonged to the sacrifices of Ahiah, our mighty God, accomplished in that day, that they might hold the Passover and offer sacrifices upon the altar of Ahiah, according to the commandments of King Josiah. So the children of Israel which were present held the Passover at the time, and the feast of sweet bread 7 days. And such a Passover was not kept in Israel since the time of the prophet Samuel. All the kings of Israel had held not such a Passover as Josiah, and the priests and the Levites and the Jews held with all Israel that were found dwelling at Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept, and the works or Josiah were upright before his king, with an heart full of godliness. As for the things that came to pass in his time, they were written in former times concerning those that sinned and did wickedly against Ahiah above all people and kingdoms, and how they grieved him exceedingly, so that the words of Ahiah rose up against Israel. Now after all these acts of Josiah, it came to pass that Pharaoh the king of Egypt came to raise war at Carchemish upon Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But the king of Egypt sent him to him, saying, What have I to do with thee, O king of Judea? I am not sent out from a mighty God, against thee, for my war is upon Euphrates. And now Ahiah, your mighty God, is with me. Yeah, Ahiah is with me, hastening me forward. Depart from me, and be not against Ahiah. Howbeit Josiah did not turn back his chariots from him, but undertook to fight with him, not regarding the words of the prophet Jeremy spoken by the mouth of Ahiah, but joined battle with him in the plain of Megiddo, and the prince came against King Josiah. Then said the king unto the servants, Carry me away out of the battle, for I am very weak. And immediately his servants took him away out of the battle. Then got he up upon his second chariot, and being brought back to Jerusalem, died, and was buried in his father's sepulchre. And all Jewry that mourned for Josiah, Jeremy the prophet lamented for Josiah, and the chief men with the women made lamentation for him upon this day. And this was given out for an ordinance to be done continually in all the nation of Israel. These things are written in the book of the stories of kings of Judah, and every one of the acts that Josiah did, and his glory, and his understanding in the law of Ahiah, and the things that he had done before, and the things now recited or reported in the book of the kings of Israel and Judea. And the people took Jochaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king instead of Josiah his father, when he was 23 years old. And he reigned in Judea and in Jerusalem 3 months, and then the king of Egypt deposed him from reigning in Jerusalem. And he set a tax upon the land of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. The king of Egypt also made King Joachim his brother king of Judea and Jerusalem, and he bound Joachim and the nobles, but Zarachis his brother he apprehended and brought him out of Egypt. 25 years old was Joachim when he was made king in the land of Judea and Jerusalem, and he did evil before Ahiah. Wherefore against him Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came up and bound him with a chain of brass and carried him into Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took of the holy vessels of Ahiah and carried them away and set them in his own temple at Babylon. But those things that are recorded of him and of his uncleanness and impiety are written in the chronicles of the king. And Joachim his son reigned in his stead. He was made king being 18 years old, and reigned but 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did evil before Ahiah our mighty God. So after a year Nebuchadnezzar sent and caused him to be brought into Babylon with the holy vessels of Ahiah, and made Zechariah king of Judah and Jerusalem when he was 21 years old, and he reigned 11 years. And he did evil also in the sight of mighty God Ahiah, and cared not for the words that were spoken unto him by the prophet Jeremy from the mouth of Ahiah. And after that King Nebuchadnezzar had made him to swear by the name of Ahiah, he forswore himself and rebelled, and hardened his neck, his heart, he transgressed the laws of mighty God Ahiah of Israel. The governors also of the people and of the priests did many things against the laws, and passed all pollution of all nations, and defiled the temple of mighty God Ahiah, which was sanctified in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, mighty God Ahiah of their fathers sent by his messenger to call them back, because he spared them and his tabernacle also. But they had his messengers in derision, and look, when Ahiah spake unto them, they made a sport of his prophets, so far forth that he, being wroth with his people for their great ungodliness, commanded the kings of the Chaldees to come up against them. who slew their young men with the sword, yea, even within the compass of their holy temple, and spared neither young man nor maid, old man nor child among them, for he delivered all into their hand. And they took all the holy vessels of Ahiah, both great and small, with vessels of the ark of mighty God Ahiah, and the king's treasures, and carried them away into Babylon. As for the house of Ahiah, they burnt it, and brake down the walls of Jerusalem, and set fire upon her towers. And as for her glorious things, they never ceased till they had consumed, and brought them all to naught. And the people that were not slain with the sword he carried into Babylon. He became servants to him and his children till the Persians reigned, to fulfill the word of Ahiah spoken by the mouth of Jeremy. Until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, the whole time of her desolation, she rest until the full term of 70 years. The first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of Ahiah might be accomplished that he had promised by the mouth of Jeremy. Ahiah raised up the spirit of Cyrus, the king of the Persians, and he made proclamation through all his kingdom, and also by writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of the Persians, Ahiah of Israel, the Most High King, had made me king of the whole world, and commanded me to build him an house at Jerusalem in Jewry. If therefore there be any of you that are of his people, let Ahiah even his king be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, that is in Judea, and build the house of Ahiah of Israel, for he is Ahiah our mighty God, the king that dwelleth in Jerusalem. Whosoever then dwell in the places about, let them help him, those I say that are his neighbors, with gold and with silver, with gifts, with horses and with cattle, and other things which been set forth by vow for the temple of Ahiah at Jerusalem. Then the chief of the families of Judea and of the tribe of Benjamin stood up, the priests also and the Levites, and all they whose mind Ahiah had moved to go up and to build an house for Ahiah at Jerusalem, and they that dwelt round about them, and helped them in all things with silver and gold, and with horses and cattle, with very many free gifts of a great number, whose minds were stirred up thereto. King Cyrus also brought forth the holy vessels which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem, and had set up in his temple of idols. Now when Cyrus king of the Persians had brought them forth, he delivered them to Mithridates, his treasurer, and by him they were delivered to Sennacherib, the governor of Judea. And this was the number of them, 1,000 golden cups, and 1,000 of silver censers of silver, 29 vials of gold, 30, and of silver 2,410, and 1,000 other vessels. So all the vessels of gold and silver which were carried away were 5,409. These were brought back by Sennacherib, together with them of the captivity from Babylon to Jerusalem. But in the time of Artaxerxes, king of the Persians, Belamus and Mithridates and Tabelias and Rathamus and Beltethamus and Semelius the secretary, with others that were in commission with them, dwelling in Samaria and other places, wrote unto him against them that dwelt in Judea and Jerusalem these letters following: To the king Artaxerxes, our lord, thy servant Rathumus the story writer, and Semelius the scribe, and the rest of the council, and the judges that are in Caesarea, and Venice might be Venice. Be it now known to Ahiah our king, that the Jews that are up from you to us, being come into Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city, do build the marketplaces, and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundations of the temple. Now if the city and the walls thereof be made of again that will not only refuse to give tribute, but also rebel against kings. And forasmuch as these things pertaining to the temple are now in hand, we think it meet not to neglect such a matter, but to speak unto our king Ahiah to the intent that if it be thy pleasure, it may be sought out in the books of thy fathers. And thou shalt find in the chronicles what is written concerning these things, and shall understand that the city was rebellious, troubling both kings and cities, and that the Jews were rebellious and raised against always wars therein, for this which cause even this city was made desolate. Wherefore now we do declare unto thee, O King, our father Ahiah, that if this city be built again, and the walls thereof set up anew, thou shalt from henceforth have no passage into Seleucia, Syria, and Phoenix. Then the king wrote back again to Rethumus, the story writer, to Beltethemus, to Samelius, the scribe, and to the rest that were in commission and dwellers in Samaria and Syria and Phoenix after this matter. I have read the epistle which ye have sent unto me, therefore I commanded to make diligent search, and it had been found that the city was from the beginning practicing against kings, and the men therein were given to rebellious in war, and that mighty kings and fierce were in Jerusalem, who reigned and exacted tribute to Syria and Phoenix. Now therefore I have commanded to hinder those men from building the city, and heed to be taken that there be no more done in it, and that those wicked workers proceed no further. To the annoyance of kings, that King Artaxerxes, his letters being read, Thaddeus and Samelius the scribe, and the rest that were in commission with them, removing in haste toward Jerusalem with a troop of horsemen and a multitude of people in the battle array, began to hinder the builders, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem ceased until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of the Persians. Now then Darius reigned, he made a great feast unto all his subjects, and unto all his household, and unto all the princes of Media and Persia, and to all governors and captains and lieutenants that were under him, from India to Ethiopia, of 127 provinces. And when they had eaten and drunken, and being satisfied were gone home, then Darius the king went into his bedchamber and slept, and soon after awaked. Then 3 young men that were of the guard that kept the king's body spake one to another, Let every one of us speak a sentence. He that shall overcome, and whose sentence shall seem wiser than the others, unto him shall the king Darius give great gifts and great things to token of victory, as to be clothed in purple, to drink in gold, and to sleep upon gold, and a chariot with bridles of gold, and an headtire of fine linen, and a chain about his neck. And he shall sit next to Darius because of his wisdom, and shall be called Darius his cousin. And then every one wrote his sentence, sealed it, and laid it under King Darius's pillow, and said that when the king is risen, some will give him the writings, and of those and whose side the king and the 3 princes of Persia shall judge that his sentence is the wisest to him, shall the victory be given as was appointed. The first wrote wine is the strongest, the second wrote the king is strongest, the third wrote women are strongest, but above all things truth beareth away the victory. Now when the king was risen up, they took their writings and delivered them unto him. So he read them, and sending forth he called all the princes of Persia and Media, and the governors, and the captains, and the lieutenants, and the chief officers, and set him down in the royal seat of judgment, and the writings were read before them. And he said, Call the young men, and they shall declare their own sentences. So they were called and came in. And he said unto them, Declare unto us your mind concerning the writings. Then began the first who had spoken of the strength of wine, and he said, Thus, O ye men, how exceeding strong is wine! It causes all men to err that drink it. It maketh the mind of the king and of the fatherless child to be all one, of the bondman and of the freeman, and of the poor man and of the rich. It turneth also every thought into jollity and mirth, so that a man remember neither sorrow nor death. And it make every heart rich, so that a man remember neither the king nor governor. And it maketh to speak all things by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love both to friends and brethren, and a little after draw out swords. But when they are from the wine, they remember not what they had done. O ye men, is not wine the strongest that enforce it to do thus? And when he had spoken, he held his peace. Then the second that had spoken of the strength of the king began to say, O ye men, do not men excel in strength that bear rule over sea and land and all things in them? But yet the king is more mighty, for he is king of all these things, and had dominion over them, and whatsoever he commanded they do. If he bid them make war the one against the other, they do it. If he send them out against the enemies, they go and break down mountain walls and towers. They slay and are slain, and transgress not the king's commandment. If they get the victory, they bring all to the king as well the spoil as all these else. Likewise for those that are no soldiers, and have not to do with wars, but use husbandry, when they have reaped again that which they had sown, they bring it to the king, and compel one another to pay tribute unto the king. And yet he is but one man. If he command to kill, they kill. If he command to spare, they spare. If he command to smite, they smite. If he command to make desolate, they make desolate. If he command to build, they build. If he command to cut down, they cut down. If he command to plant, they plant. So all his people and his armies obey him. Furthermore, he lieth down, he eateth and drinketh, and taketh his rest. And these keep watch round about him, neither may any one depart and do his own business, neither disobey they him in anything. O ye men, how should not the king be mightiest when in such sort he is obeyed? And he held his tongue. Then the third who had spoken of women and of the truth, this was Zerubbabel, began to speak. O ye men, it is not the great king, nor the multitude of men, neither is it wine that excelleth. Who is it then that ruleth them, or hath the lordship over them? Or not they not women? Women have borne the king and all the people that bear rule by sea and land. Even of them came they, and they nourished them up that planted the vineyards, from whence the wine cometh. These also make garments for men, these bring glory into men, and without women cannot men be. Yea, and if men have gathered together gold and silver, or of any other goodly thing, do they not love a woman which is commonly in favor and beauty? And letting all those things go, do they not gape, and even with open mouth fix their eyes fast on her? And have not all men more desiring to her than unto silver or gold, or any any goodly thing whatsoever? A man leaveth his own father that brought him up, and his own country, and cleaveth unto his wife. He sticketh not to spend his life with his wife, and remember neither father nor mother nor country. But by this also you must know that women have dominion over you. Do you not labor and toil and give and bring all to the woman? Yea, a man taketh his sword and go his way to rob and to steal, to sail upon the sea and upon rivers, and looketh upon a lion, and go in the darkness, and when he had stolen spoil and robbed, he bring it to his love. Wherefore a man loveth his wife better than father or mother. Yea, many there be that have run out of their wits for women, and become servants for their sakes. Many also have perished, have erred, and sinned for women. And now do you not believe? Is not the king great in his power? Do not all regions fear to touch him? Yeah, yet did I see him and Apame, the king's concubine, the daughter of the admirable Borticus, sitting at the right hand of the king, and taking the crown from the king's head and set it upon her own head. She also struck the king with her left hand. And yet for all this the king's grape gaped and gazed upon her with open mouth. If she laughed upon him, he laughed also. But if she took any displeasure at him, the king was fain to flatter, that she might be reconciled to him again. O ye men, can it be but women should be strong, seeing they do thus? Then the king and the princess looked one upon another, so he began to speak of truth. O ye men, are not women strong? Great is the earth, high is the heaven, swift is the sun in his course, for he compasseth the heavens round about, and fetcheth his course again to his own place in one day. Is he not great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth, and stronger than all things. And all the earth cried upon the truth, and the heaven blessed it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is not unrighteous thing. Wine is wicked, the king is wicked, women are wicked, all the children of men are wicked, and such are all their wicked works, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also they shall perish. As for the truth, it endured and is always strong. It liveth and conquered for evermore. With her there is no accepting of persons or rewards, but she doeth the things that are just, and refraineth from all unjust and wicked things, and all men do well like of her. Neither in her judgment is any unrighteousness, and she is the strength, kingdom, and power and majesty of all ages. Blessed be the mighty God of truth. Ahia. And with that he held his peace. And all the people that shouted and said, Great is truth, and mighty above all things. Then said the king unto him, Ask what thou wilt more than is appointed in the writing, and we will give it thee, because thou art found wisest, and thou shalt sit next me, and shalt be called my cousin. Then said he unto the king, Remember thy vow which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest to the kingdom, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart, when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. And now, O Lord the king, this is this which I require, and which I desire of thee. This is the princely liberality proceeding from thyself. I desire therefore that thou make good the vow, the performance whereof with thine own mouth thou hast vowed to the King of heaven. Then Darius the king stood up and kissed him, and wrote letters for him unto all the treasurers and lieutenants and captains and governors, that they should safely convey on their way both him and all those that go up with him to build Jerusalem. He wrote letters also unto the lieutenants that were in Syria and Phoenix, and unto them in Libanus, that they should bring cedar wood from Libanus and Jerusalem, and that they should build the city with him. Moreover, he wrote for all the Jews that went out of his realm up into Jewry concerning their freedom, that no officer, no ruler, no lieutenant, nor treasurer should forcibly enter into their doors, and that all the country which they hold should be free without tribute, and that the Edomites should give over the villages of the Jews which then they held. Yea, there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple until the time that it were built, and upon 10 talents yearly to maintain the burnt offerings upon the altar every day, as they had a commandment to offer 17. And that all that they went from Babylon to build the city should have free liberty, as well they as their posterity, and all the priests that went away. He wrote also concerning the charges and the priests' vestments wherein they ministered, and likewise for the charges of the Levites to be given them until the day that the house were finished and Jerusalem built up. And he commanded to give to all that kept the city pensions and wages. He sent away also all the vessels from Babylon that Cyrus had set apart, and all that Cyrus had given in commandment, the same charged he also to be done, and sent unto Jerusalem. Now, when his young men were gone forth, he lifted up his face to heaven toward Jerusalem and praised the King of heaven, Ahiah. And we're going to stop at that, and we'll continue with 1 Esdras, page 698, which is chapter 4.59 tomorrow. Thank you for listening.